Denver Mayor Mike Johnston is outlining his 2025 goals for the city, knowing full well that the Trump administration's threats to pull funding from Denver and have immigration agents do mass raids in the city will define the coming year. Our own Kyle Clark was there after talking to the mayor this morning. So what did you learn?
Well, I mean, he has to balance the two things, right? Have to run the city, do all the functions of the city, and there's also the fact that mass deportations could happen in the city soon. He's being called to testify before Congress. There are Republicans thirsting for his arrest personally. So we talked about those two priorities being balanced, right? In terms of what he wants the city to do, the city of Denver in 2025 says he wants to bring 3,000 affordable housing units online, move 2,000 more people indoors, as well as move 2,000 people who are currently housed into permanent housing. Mayor's talking about 2,500 jobs for kids, out-of-school jobs for kids to keep them out of trouble. And he wants DPD to help decrease shootings by 15% in 2025. But obviously looming over all of this is what happens with immigration, with him personally. I asked him how he talks to his team about balancing those priorities. What do you tell your staff about how to balance what's within your control and what's outside your control?
Yeah, I say we try to stay focused on what our top priorities are and our belief that we can control those things that matter most to Denverites, and the government that is the closest to them matters the most. And so for us, these goals are really important tethering for us to stay close to what our focus is, what residents want, and then we manage the rest of the noise as it comes. But I think for our staff, we're really focused on the day-to-day public services and making sure the things that Denverites care most about we can address. And the rest of the news can catch a lot of attention, but it often doesn't change your day-to-day life as much as it will if your kid doesn't have access to preschool, or if you get your bike stolen out of your garage, or if your trash doesn't get picked up.
That said, you said this morning that there are people in this city who are afraid.
Yes.
Are you one of those people?
I am afraid for members of our community who I've talked to who I know are afraid, and there are some things we can do to support them, and there are some things that will be outside of our control.
One thing that's outside the mayor's control is honestly what happens with his call for him to testify before Congress, because House Republicans are inviting him at this point to come and testify. If he refuses, this becomes one of those situations where he could get subpoenaed and dragged in there and everything else. I asked him about that. He did not say for sure that he was going to go to D.C. or that he was not, just said these conversations are ongoing, right? There are often negotiations about, like, how long will you testify? What are the topics you're going to cover? Who would you appear with? What documents will you produce? It sounds like those conversations are happening.
Interesting. Did he talk or touch upon some of the resources that are for immigrations that we saw disappear yesterday? Did he touch upon, like, what the city is hoping to do, what the state's hoping to do to protect those people?
So one thing that he did mention a couple days ago when we last spoke to him is that the city is looking to move about $1 million more into an immigrant defense fund. This is to allow folks to have legal representation while they go through the deportation process. And for folks who are saying, like, well, why would the city want to help people who are being deported? The answer is because a lot of those people actually have a legal way to stay here if they have legal representation that can help find that pathway to temporary or permanent status. Studies have shown that folks are 10 times more likely to avoid deportation if they have representation in those immigration proceedings, but the vast, vast majority do not have representation.
Right. Thank you, Kyle Clark, as always. We appreciate you.